Everyone sarnai? Everyone okay? All settled? Okay. Ready for another day? Of what? Whatever Swaminatha throws at us? Right. Good, good. Always be prepared for miracles to happen. I can't make miracles happen. Miracles will happen within you. It's not out here that miracles happen. Miracles will happen within you. This Dhamma can help you think in ways, or begin to think in ways that you've never thought before, ladies and gentlemen. Most of you, if not all of you, will have begun to experience the bliss that the teaching brings you. You'll have discovered this as you've been going through life's ups and downs. Because although you come here on a Sunday morning, and this is kind of like a very unnatural environment, isn't it? It's very unnatural. This is not what you normally go through in an average week. This is very different to the rest of the week, I imagine, for most of you at least. Because when you're outside this place, this noble companionship, this community that you are, people won't treat you the same way. People will be there to get what they want from you. Here, people are here to give you what you need. They may not give you what you want, but they'll give you what you need. But when you're outside, people will come to you to get what they want, not necessarily what they need either. They'll be there to get what they want because they don't understand the difference between a need and a want. They don't understand that wants are the things that bring them down to their knees and make beggars out of kings. They don't understand that because they don't have the Dhamma. Powerful men have been brought down by things as simple as desire. Great emperors have been ruined. Lives have been destroyed. Great nations have crumbled. For what? Desire, aversion, delusion. Rága, dwésha and móha have always spelt disaster wherever they struck. It's like a thunderbolt. It will always destroy. So wherever rága, dwésha, móha reside, happiness cannot be there. Those two things are mutually exclusive. Which must speak to you and explain to you why there are times in life you are not happy. Whenever you are not happy in life, remind yourself that it is rága, dwésha and móha that's doing this to me. In those moments, if you even take a step back or remind yourself those moments when you're not happy, ask yourself the question, why am I not happy at this time? You will see that there is something that you want, something that you're attached to, something that your heart desires, something other than Nibbāna. It is those moments where you will realize you're not happy. Either because you're waiting for something to happen or something that you didn't want has happened. In either of these two situations, you will suffer. But then, alas, that is life. Happiness is merely a moment between two moments of unhappiness. This is what life is. So there's only one way out of this, and that is to free yourself from rága, dwésha and móha. This is like a three-pronged fork. It will always keep pricking at you. Raga, dwésha and móha. Just like this. Always keep pricking at you. Wherever you go, whatever you do. But the best thing is though, the Dhamma is the best and the only medicine to eradicate raga, dwésha and móha. These are the three fires that have been burning within you right from when you started life in samsara. If you don't believe in a life before this, at least this life, you know this life is there for real. That you don't have to speculate. You know that this life is there for real. And you know that in this life, whenever you have suffered, be that fear, be that grievance, be that sorrow, be that envy, jealousy, hatred, anger, disappointment, frustration, expectation. In all of these instances, you will know that there was something that you were longing for, something that you thought was of value, something that you thought would make your life complete, meaning at that moment you felt that your life was not complete. So why live half lives when you can live a full one? Only people who have yet to see the sasana live half lives. They live half a life. Always they feel like something's not complete. That's why a man looks for the day when he can be with a woman. He thinks that his life will be complete when he finds one. A woman lives her life thinking that one day her life will be complete when she finds a man. You think that completes life? What happens after that? Then you wait for the next thing. That could be children. But once children are there, now is your life complete? Those with children can speak. When your first child came along, did you feel like your life was complete? Then why did you go for the second? Why did you also want to buy a house, a bigger house? Why did you want another car? Then why did you want to get them married? And then you thought, when that's done, my life will be complete. When my children are married and settled, then my life will be complete. That's what you convince yourself. You kept telling these things, these lies to yourself. You heard it on the grapevine. Someone said, when your children are married and they've left home, after that you'll be fine. Really? Do you remember every weekend you would see them and you'd ask them, when? What was that when? When are you going to make me a happy grandma? When are you going to make me a happy grandfather? Questions. Always looking for that equation to balance itself out. Always looking for that one piece which you felt would complete your life. If your lives are complete, why are you here? Collectively, I imagine you've done everything under the sun. Every profession, every walk of life, the rich and the not so rich, the powerful and the not so powerful, the educated and the not so educated. You name it, they're all here. Here or behind the camera. They're all there. Once married, twice married, thrice married, never married, they're all there. One child, 2 children, 3 children, 4 children, 5, they're all there. They're all here, either here or behind the camera. Why are you still here then? What are you looking for? You're looking for the piece that will complete you. So, what does that tell you? None of those parts completed you. Half-lives. I used to live a half-life. I also used to go behind all these things, hoping that the next thing I do would complete my life. Some of you feel that a bottle will complete your life. Not a bottle of water. So if you go home and open the cupboard in the pantry, there's always going to be a bottle. Hoping that the contents of that bottle will complete your life. How many times have you tried? There would have been moments where you were intoxicated, couldn't even stand straight on your own 2 feet. The first lesson you learned at home. How do you stand on your own 2 feet? And then, as an adult, you forgot. Yeah? That one lesson that you learned. How do you stand on your own 2 feet? And a bottle made you forget all that. When you were inebriated, you couldn't stand on your own 2 feet and you started falling, doing funny dances. Became the laughing stock of everyone around you. And when people would laugh at you, you thought you were entertaining them. That cheered you up even more. I'm not insulting you, anyone, I hope. I'm just saying this is what people do because they feel that their lives are not complete. I wish people would stop to wonder why my life is not complete and try and find the answer to that. Without doing all these nonsensical things. This is fool's paradise. Once you enter fool's paradise, everything you do is wrong. Everything you do is wrong. Everything. Everything you do in fool's paradise is wrong. It's wrong not because of what you do, it's wrong because of the reason you do it. That's why it's wrong. If you want to find something to do with your time, watch TV. No problem. You just want something to do with your time, watch TV, fine. But if you're watching TV because you want to be happy, that's wrong. Because the TV can only take your time, it can't make you happy in that time. It can't. How many hours of TV have you watched altogether? You can't even count the number in years. Altogether, collectively, how many hours of TV have you watched? Decades, if not hundreds of centuries maybe by this point. All of us together? Don't you think? When did you start watching TV? 6? Maybe even younger? Nowadays, you start even younger. Maybe you were in your teens when they actually brought a TV to your home, but these days you start off even younger. And then you start at 6, now you're 60. How many years of TV have you watched? To what avail? What has it given you? As I said, if all you want is to do something with your time, watch TV. Something has to, I'm alive, so I have to do something. Then watching TV is fine. But if you want to watch TV because you want to be happy, that's not fine. That's what people do in fool's paradise. You're always looking for that peace that will complete you. That's what I'm saying. Then there'll be people who do drugs because they feel that is what's going to make them complete. What's the difference? One person wants to do drugs, the other person wants to eat chocolate. Because they feel either of those two things will make them complete. Who's better, who's worse? It's all the same. One is legal, the other is illegal. That's the only difference. That's the only difference. One is legal, the other is illegal. So what do they do in some countries now? They legalize illegal substances. And then it becomes legal. Now what's the difference between, say, marijuana and chocolate? One is legal. What's the difference? One is addicted to marijuana, the other is addicted to chocolate. What's the difference? One is addicted to pornography, the other is addicted to watching TV. What's the difference? Just two things that waste your time. That's it. If people simply want something to do with their time, either of those are fine. So either of those is fine. But my problem is people do it because they want to feel complete. That's why they do it. You don't have a TV at home because you want to watch TV. You have a TV at home because you believe that watching TV will complete you. That's why you have one. And that is why the day you become complete, you stop watching TV. That's why. That's why when you're really happy, you really don't want to watch TV. Say you have a friend come by right? Someone you really care about, someone you really want to spend time with. Someone's come down. Maybe they've come down from another country. You've collected them from the airport. You bring them home. Right? Now you want to spend time with them. Do you go and switch on the TV and tell them, I'll talk to you later? You want to watch TV? You don't. Why? Because you feel you're complete. At least temporarily you feel like you're complete. You're not. That's fool's paradise. You're fooled. You feel like you're complete. You're not complete though. It's like there's a void and there's a hallucination that you're going through at that moment. There's an imaginary stopgap. It's imaginary. It's not real. It's fake. After a while, it fades away. So the moment they arrive, you want to talk with them. You want to share your experiences with them. You want to share stories with them. Have a cup of tea together. Have a piece of cake together. That's what you want to do. You want to share this. You share their experiences with each other. You want to get to know each other and so on. How they've spent their time, and you want to share your stories. But the following day, or maybe a few hours later, now you want to watch TV again. You have to wonder why your TV at home has so many channels. Because none of them complete you. Otherwise you should only have one channel, shouldn't you? Ask your grandfather or your great-grandfather. There was only one channel. But that was the start of a slippery slope. When the TV was invented, it was a given that in a few years' time, there would be an uncountable number of channels on it. That was a given. Because if there's going to be a TV, there will be 100 channels on it or more. Because inventing the TV was not the answer. People wanted to see things that they couldn't see at that moment. They wanted to see previous events. They wanted to see future events. They wanted to see things that were going on around the world. Meaning, they were not content with what their eyes provided. At that moment, they were not content. So if you're not content now, you will not be content later. So it's no wonder that every year you will have new TV channels start up. That's just always going to be the case. And all this because people they don't feel complete. That is what each and every one of you is looking for. How can I feel complete? You feel this void within you, ladies and gentlemen. It is true. That's why you can't live alone. That's why you feel like you need a companion. Loneliness is one of the greatest maladies, isn't it? Try living alone. If you're very connected to your family, try living alone. Try being by yourself. Not because you're sick and tired of being with them. When times are good, not when times are bad. When times are good. Like everyone's just getting on really well, very loving, everyone's so loving, so affectionate, right? Now try being alone. Then you realize that you can't survive. You can't survive a day, let alone a week. People who age, or old people, they suffer the most, not because of their physical inabilities. What happens is as they start growing older, the people around them start leaving them. Because they're not interesting anymore. You can't do what you used to do with them anymore. They can't take you out anymore. They can't entertain you anymore. That's why as your parents start aging and they start growing older, children start getting interested in other things. They want to go out, they want to have fun. But what do parents want? They want to be with their children. That's what they sacrifice life and limb for. to be with their children, the love of their life. And now, as they start leaving them, that's all they long for. Your mother or your father, from the day you left them, would always look forward. Say if you visit them once every weekend, if you visit them once a weekend, maybe once every 2 weeks, try missing one of those visits and what they would do. You can be sure they'll give you a call and they'll ask you, aren't you coming today? They'll ask you. If you've regularly been visiting them, say every other week or once a month, if you miss one of those visits, don't inform them beforehand. Miss one of those visits, they'll be on the phone to you. Aren't you coming this week? Then you say, oh, I'm busy. We're busy this week. What's the next question? So when will you come? That's because they're not complete. Always incomplete. You have to come here to find an answer to that problem. How do you complete yourself? So that you are not like an unsolved puzzle. I mean, that is what you are. That's what all human beings are, unsolved puzzles. It's like there's always one piece that you don't know where to put. So the puzzle is not complete. So you try moving the pieces here, there, you try moving them around, but no, it just doesn't complete. The picture's not complete. That's that sense of void that you feel, that inadequacy that you feel, that incompleteness that you feel. That's why every morning you get out of bed and you think to yourself, what should I do today so that I feel complete? And you start making plans. That house that you want to buy, the car you want to buy, the places you want to go, the restaurants you want to go and try, the people you want to go and meet. I mean, this is life. I know, I understand that. It's what I used to do. Day after day after day after day, we just spend our lives. It feels like, that is what life has been given. A new lease of life was given to you when you were born, so that you can just keep on experimenting. But it's always the wrong experiment. Finally, you have come to a place, I don't mean to me, I mean to the Dhamma. Finally, you have come to a place where you can find the answers to help you complete your lives. And the funny thing is, the answer is that you were always complete. That's why it's called a realization. If you ask me what the Buddha discovered under the Bodhi tree, I'll tell you something that you might think sounds really absurd. What the Buddha discovered under the Bodhi tree was that he was always a Buddha. He was always a Buddha. Under the Bodhi tree, he stopped trying to become one. You know why you're not happy? Still? You're not happy yet because you're trying to become happy. You're trying to be happy. That's why you're not happy. I don't have happiness to offer you. Why should I give you what is already yours? Why come here to get something that is already yours? See, I come empty-handed. Otherwise, by the number of people that are in this room by this point, that little car that we come in is not going to be big enough to carry all the happiness that I have been to deliver to you, right? I mean, when you were a small audience, then fair enough, a small car did. But now, 200 or more people here. How come I still come in that small car and it's still enough? Don't I have to keep bringing happiness for all of you? I come the same way I came the first day, empty-handed. You come the same way you came the first day, with happiness, but you don't realize that. That's why I say, what the Buddha realized under the Bodhi tree was that he was always a Buddha. Because, yes, of course, he attained supreme Buddhahood, Samma Sambuddha, which comes with special powers, special knowledge and all that. That was the result of all those perfections. But at the most fundamental level, to become a Buddha is simply to realize happiness. To attain happiness, to achieve happiness. What if happiness was always with you? Then aren't you all arahants already? When you have a rusty iron, what do? And you want the iron back. There's iron and there's rust. You want the iron back, what do? Do you bring iron from somewhere, or do you just scrape the rust off? That's what you do, right? You scrub the rust off. You might use some chemical and a bit of elbow grease, and you remove the rust. What's left is the iron. So, was there some point where the iron went missing? Did it go somewhere? Leaving just the rust, did the iron disappear? Did it run away? No, the iron was always there, wasn't it? In just the same way, ladies and gentlemen, your happiness is always with you. The problem is, you try to look for happiness. You're always in the pursuit of happiness. That is why you bought that TV. That is why you go out. That is why you go to a party, looking for happiness. You sacrifice the happiness that you have and you go looking for happiness. Alas, you will never find it. That's like putting your glasses on your head and then looking for them around your house. See, that's the problem. If you put it the one place where you cannot see, but it's always there with you, when are you going to find it? By looking for it? You go looking in the drawers. You go room to room. Those who wear glasses, you'll have had this experience at some point in your lives. Put it on your head, you go looking for it. And you keep telling yourself, I'm sure I left it in the drawer. I'm sure I left it there. Must be in the car. Let me go check in the cubby hole. Then you go check in the glove box. I'm sure I left it here. And you go and ask someone, have you seen my glasses? They'll laugh at you. Then you ask, why are you laughing? No, you'll realize. They tell you that you'll realize. Just keep looking, you'll find it eventually. Help you without laughing. You say, no, there's no point in me helping you. Then you go looking in the most weird and wonderful places. You go look in the fridge. You're thinking, just in case. Maybe it's in the sink. You open the kettle, look inside. Maybe I dropped it there by mistake. In the most bizarre places, you go looking for it. Looking for what? Your spectacles. Don't you go looking for happiness in the most bizarre places? Don't you? Did you find it? You go shopping looking for it, don't you? And you are willing to give them money Just think about how silly that is. Just imagine you hired a detective, right? So you hired a detective and you said, hey, I'm looking for my glasses. And I've been looking for it all over, everywhere. Now, where are your glasses, by the way? They're on your head. Okay, so I'm looking for my glasses, I can't find it, so I want you, the best detectives. I'm willing to pay any price. Can you find them for me? You know, those detectives, they're going to have a field trip. They are going to exploit you now. They can see that the glasses are on your head, but they'll take your money. They don't love you. They love your money. They'll ask for an advance first to give you what you already have. You know, that's why these sermons are free. I don't give you anything. I have no happiness to offer you. So what are we going to trade then? What are we going to trade? If I'm going to have to ask you to pay me something, I have to give you something in exchange. Surely, yeah? So if I named a price and said, right, this is how much, you would ask me, what for, Swami Nuhansa? Then I'd say happiness. And then you'd say, but I already have it with me. Why should I pay for it? At least you will say that once you realize that. And at that point, I'll have to refund all your money anyway. Because you will tell me that I tricked you. Just imagine I charged you money now, but eventually you listen to the Dhamma and then you realize that happiness is always yours to begin with. On that day, you would come and ask me, can I have my money back, please? Wouldn't you? And would you not be entitled to ask me that question anyway? You'd be entitled to demand your money back. Why? I never gave you happiness. It was always yours. So to save you all that hassle, we don't charge money to begin with. That's why the sermons are free. I can't take your money for nothing. I have to give you something. I mean, I could charge you for the sandwiches, but it's not I who bring them here. So I don't. You know, all kidding aside, ladies and gentlemen, do try and discover that you are already complete. Realize that. Realize that everything that you do in Fool's Paradise is only something a fool would do. That's why they call it Fool's Paradise. Take stock of all the things you've done in your life so far and ask yourself, to what avail? Has that actually given you true happiness? If so, why did you have to do the next thing? Again in the name of happiness. Just ask yourself how much money you spend in the name of happiness. On a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. How much of your paycheck actually goes into things that you do in Fool's Paradise? And ask yourself honestly, can you pat yourself on the back and say, good girl, attaboy? Ask yourself these questions. This is why I want you to open your eyes and realize. Realize. There's nothing to go and fetch when it's already yours. So don't subscribe to anyone who says, come to me and I'm going to give you happiness. Come to me and I'll help you realize that you are already happy. That I buy. You are already happy. You just don't accept that. You have a tough time accepting yourselves. You give yourselves very little credit. Honestly. You give yourselves very little credit. You think a BMW is better than you. Beat that. You think a BMW is better than you. That's why you will work for 10 long years, 15 long years, Or you get yourself in debt and you go and buy a BMW. You buy a Beamer. Or you buy a Merc. Or you buy a Lamborghini. You buy whatever, a Rolls Royce, you name it. Because you believe that those things are better than you. See how you undermine yourselves? Whereas I don't believe that. Only Nibbāna is better than me. That's why that's the only thing I want. Only Nibbāna is better than me. So, how can you say that that kind of life is a successful life? You live in a one story. One fine day someone comes along and says, don't you think it would be better if this were 2 stories? Now what's better than you? Now a 2-storied house is better than you. Then someone says, wouldn't it be nice if you had a tennis court? Oh yeah. Someone said, would it be nice if you had a basketball court? Maybe a badminton court? Maybe a swimming pool? A gymnasium would be the perfect addition to your house. Because you feel in that moment, right when they say that, you feel, I'm now incomplete. So it's like whenever someone comes and talks to you, it's like they pluck away something from you. It's like they pluck at your heart. If your heart represents your happiness, the moment someone comes and talks to you and says, would it not be nice? Wouldn't it be good? Wouldn't it be better? You feel like they've just plucked something from your heart and taken away, and now you have to go looking for it. This is what you go through. That's why you're always on a rat race. And because you have given people the power to influence you, all you have to do for that is switch on the TV. Don't have to do much more than that. Switch on the radio, buy the newspaper. I mean, you pay for the newspaper, and that is for them to influence you. You pay for their privilege. So what is my advice to you? Don't buy newspapers? No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't switch on the TV. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying become complete. Realize that you are complete. And then no one will be able to influence you like they do right now. You have allowed other people to wield such power over you because you feel you're incomplete, because you feel you're inadequate, because you feel that something and someone out there has this peace that one day is going to complete you. And that's why you get down on one knee and you beg, please say yes. Please, please, please. Whenever you hear yourself begging, hear yourself praying, is what I have to say. Because you need not. You need not, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to realize that you are complete. You are complete human beings. That is why when I draw you on the board, have I drawn you on the board? When I draw you on the board, have I drawn you on the board? Yes? Let me draw you on the board. That's you. If today is your first day, you may not understand what I'm talking about. I'll explain. When I draw you on the board, see, you're complete. It's a perfect line. But you think you're like this. That's what you think you are. This is what you are. The black line is what you are, the red line is what you think you are. Now you see this gap? So what should you do now? Somehow try and somehow you have to try and fill it. It's like when you go to the dentist for a filling. You're full of cavities, that's what it is. Your mind is complete. But the moment you feel that you are incomplete, your mind is full of cavities, now you have to go looking for a filling. And just like when you have a dental cavity, you go to the dentist. When you have a mental cavity, you go to people just like you. Don't you? When you have a mental cavity, who do you go to? People just like you. Yet others who have mental cavities. So they want something you have, you want something they have. Wonderful. It's the perfect recipe, isn't it? Now, the old adage, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Isn't that what we promised each other on the Porva? Isn't that what every contract, whether it's verbal, written, right? Every contract, that's what it says. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. Maybe not in such crude words, but in refined language, that's what it says. You give me 50 million, I give you a house. You give me 100 million, I'll give you another house. You give me 500 million, I give you a rocket. You give me 50 trillion, I'll give you the moon. If you're in this situation, if you're in this state, you're in a bad place. Trust me, you're in a bad place. Because you are not that. That's what I'm saying. That is not who you really are. This is who you think you are. This is who you really are. Just let yourself be, is what I'm asking you to do. Just let yourself be. Can I say that again? Just let yourself be. Why won't you let yourself be? This is how you were born. This is what you make of yourself. Undermining yourselves. Belittling yourselves. Demeaning yourselves. Stooping to a low level. Unnecessary. That's why mental suffering is always unnecessary. Always. Always unnecessary. It is not mandatory. It is not vipaka that brings you mental suffering, you create it. Vipaka might bring you physical suffering, yes. But mental suffering is your own making. In every citta that is born, it's born to be happy. But because you don't let it be, you create that mental suffering. And I'll explain to you how that happens. But before that, we have something to do. These words are not mine, ladies and gentlemen. These words are the words of the Buddha. I am only a radio. He was the original channel. That's where this wisdom was born. Under that Bodhi tree was where this wisdom was born. And then he propagated that. One antenna to the other. It kept on propagating. Each antenna that caught that signal transmitted it to another. transferring one to many, one to many, one to many. That's how so far and so long this message has survived. From one to many. So I've been fortunate enough to be in the proximity of a very strong and powerful antenna. And I caught that signal. And it made sense. Until then, there was just noise. If you tuned into this station before I caught that channel, it would have just been noise, rubbish, trash, to put it quite simply, just trash. But now you can listen to the music. Now it's music. But this wisdom was born under that Bodhi tree. That is why we attribute the source of all wisdom to the great Buddha himself. He who realized for the very first time, all by himself, that he was a Buddha all along. Our task is to help you understand that. So let us bring our palms together then. In veneration of the Supreme One, the fully awakened One, the enlightened One, the perfect One, the magnificent One, our teacher, our father, our guide, and our master on this path to ultimate bliss. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. How does something that was born to be this become this? That's what we need to understand. The root cause of all suffering is ignorance. To put it quite simply, ladies and gentlemen, you only suffer because you don't understand what suffering is. That's why. The day you understand what suffering is, all suffering ceases. It's like darkness. Imagine you were born into darkness. Let's say you had the faculty of sight, but you were born into a pitch black dark place, and it was always dark. You'd never seen any light. One fine day, someone comes along, they bump into you, and they say, "Oh, excuse me." And you say, "Who are you?" So and so. And then they ask you this question. They ask you, "Why are you in the dark?" They ask you, "Why are you in the dark?" What is your answer to that? You understand the premise of the question? You were born into darkness, you've always been there, you've never seen a light before. Someone comes in and asks you, "Why are you in the dark?" What is your answer? What do you mean? Right? What do you mean? What do you mean, why are you in this? What? What was that word again? That's what you're going to say. In the dark? What dark? What's dark? What's dark? Then the other person says, "What do you mean what's dark? It's what you're in." That's what dark is. It's what you're in. You say, "What? What do you mean what I'm in? I mean, these things, these are clothes, aren't they?" No, not that. You're in the dark. There's no light where you are. That's what I mean, you're in the dark. Then what's the next question you're going to ask? Light? What's light? So just imagine, they had a source of light with them, a torch maybe. Now you're asking them this question, what is dark? Can you explain to me what darkness is? This thing that you call dark, what is it? Is the question you keep on asking them. So then they have a torch in their hand. What does a torch give? Darkness, is it? When you light a torch, that's why I call you light a torch. You don't dark a torch, do you? When you light a torch, what comes out of it? Light. Now, a man who holds a torch, from a man who holds a torch, you ask the question, what is darkness? If you are that man who has a torch in your hand, and I'm that man who asks you, what is darkness, what are you going to do right now? You have a torch, by the way, and I'm asking you the question, what is darkness? You don't have a source of darkness, do you? What you have is a torch. What are you going to do to explain to me what darkness is? Exactly. You light the torch. Meaning, you shed light. The moment you shed light, what do I discover? What do I learn? That I have always been in the dark. It is that day I realize what darkness is. I'd always been there, but I'd never known that that's where I was. I didn't know how to interpret darkness. I didn't know how to make sense of darkness, because that's where I always was. It's the day you shed light on the situation. That's the day I realized that there's a contrast between light and dark. And I was always in the dark. So you see, what is the only thing that can teach you what darkness is? Light. Light is the only thing that can teach you what darkness is. That's why on the seventh day, God said, let there be light. You can take it literally if you want, but I see these things through the lens of Dhamma. So He created the world, and on the seventh day He said, let there be light. Let there be wisdom. And then He put Adam and Eve in there. So they were wise. They started out wise before they ate the forbidden apple. So now they're going looking for light again. Because now they're in the dark. That's why when you're born as a Christian, or as you're into a Christian family, you have to be baptized. You have to be washed of the original sin. Because you were in the light to begin with. See? Let there be light. You were in the light to begin with. But what happens is, what is supposed to be this becomes this. Today, each of your chittas is born to be this. I keep pointing at something. I don't know, can you distinguish which one I'm pointing at? So this is actually what I'll do is, okay, this and this. So when I'm pointing at this, that's the black line. That's the normal you, the actual you. This, the red line, is what you make out of it. You make yourself that. You undermine yourselves to that. So this is what you're meant to be. And there is light. But this chitta arises on a bed of ignorance. What is ignorance again? Katama chauso avijja. What is ignorance? Dukkha ajnana. Dukkha samudaya ajnana. Dukkha nirodha ajnana. Dukkha nirodha gaminiya patipadaya ajnana. Ayang uchatavso avijja. This is ignorance. Ignorance of dukkha. Ignorance of the cause of dukkha. Ignorance that dukkha can be eradicated. And ignorance of the path that leads to the cessation or the eradication of dukkha. That is ignorance. You are in ignorance, or you suffer dukkha, suffering, játhi, that only happens within you because you don't know that it is dukkha. That's why, just like the analogy of darkness, you are only in the dark until you realize that you're in the dark. Once you have realized you're in the dark, you're no longer in the dark. See, the moment someone switches on the torch and points at something, right? They say, I want to show you what darkness is, here you go. And they switch on the torch. Where the light falls, that spot, right? Let's just say, I hope this is all making sense to you. This is all dark. So think of the invert of this, okay? Okay, color it out. That's dark. Someone lights a torch. And that's what they can do. When they light the torch, everywhere else but this spot is dark, isn't it? So when they light the torch, what are you looking at? Everywhere else or the place where they've lit up? The place where they've lit up. That's the spot they're pointing at, right? So what you're actually looking at is light, isn't it? So the moment you look at light, now you know what was darkness. Not what is. What was darkness. You only realize that once you start seeing light. Now, when did the Buddha utter this phrase? Idam dukkha. Pubbyanana sutesu dhammesu chakkhum udavadi. Before seeing the light or after seeing the light? After seeing the light. Once he was fully awakened, he said, aha, that was dukkha, not this is dukkha. In other words, it is idam dukkham is this is dukkha. But what he's actually saying is, I realize now that dukkha was what was there. Dukkha was what was there. Dukkha is not the suffering that you all know from your day-to-day experiences. That's the worst interpretation of dukkha, because the moment you think that that is dukkha, then you've almost given up, because there's not really much you can do about it. A lot of people misunderstand the Buddha's teachings because, for whatever reason, good or bad, this word dukkha has been interpreted by us, particularly people of the Sinhalese tongue, as suffering. And now in other languages as well, the word suffering is what is used very commonly to refer to dukkha. So when people think about sorrow or fear, those emotions that people have, they think that is what the Buddha spoke of. But then they don't stop to wonder why the Buddha would have said, it is upon achieving my Buddhahood I realize what dukkha is. That this is dukkha, because he'd always known that kind of dukkha. The dukkha that you and I know, average dukkha, common dukkha, usual dukkha, regular dukkha, if you like. All this kind of dukkha. This painful emotions that not only human beings but also all kinds of birds and beasts go through. If that is the dukkha that the Buddha discovered, then you and I are also Buddhas. Because we also know that it hurts, it's painful, we don't like it. So there's quite a distinction, ladies and gentlemen, between this normal, regular, usual, common dukkha that everyone's talking about and the dukkha that the Buddha discovered. Because that dukkha that the Buddha discovered, I often refer to it as Játhi because I prefer to use that word Játhi as opposed to the word dukkha because it has this other connotation. Because the moment I say dukkha, you start thinking I'm talking about suffering, and then you think, well, yes, of course, that's why we are all here. Actually, the truth be told, if you have seen suffering, then suffering ceases to exist. So you can't be coming here telling me, Swamin Wahansa, I understand life is full of suffering, Swamin Wahansa. That's why I am here. No. If you have seen suffering, suffering has ceased to exist. Once again, if you have seen the suffering that the Buddha spoke of, or the dukkha that the Buddha spoke of, really the technical term is Játhi, that the Buddha spoke of, then that will have ceased to exist. Because you see, ladies and gentlemen, this is the truth, right? To see dukkha is to see that it is conditioned. Now listen carefully. To see dukkha is to see that it is conditioned. To see that it's conditioned is to see what the causes of those conditions are. What are those causes? Because you can't see that something's conditioned without seeing what those conditions are. It's conditioned. Once you realize that something is conditioned, in and of itself, you realize that when those conditions cease to exist, the effect ceases to exist. I'll switch to the word causes rather than conditions. So once again, dukkha, to see dukkha, to understand dukkha, to realize what dukkha is to understand that dukkha is conditioned, meaning it is an effect of causes. So you can't say that I understand dukkha without a knowledge, an understanding that dukkha is the result of causes. It's true causes. So whenever you say that I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm disappointed because he or she or it doesn't do what I want them to do, you have not seen the causes of dukkha. Now you're talking about a completely different kind of dukkha. That is the average dukkha, the common dukkha, the regular dukkha. Ordinary dukkha, if you like. It's what ordinary folk talk about. Life is always ups and downs, always suffering in life. Everyone talks about suffering. The world is full of suffering, isn't it? There you go. Who doesn't know that? Who doesn't know that life is full of suffering? Who doesn't know that? Well, every man, woman and child does. Meaning everyone's a Buddha, right? So why do we bother with sermons? Why do we bother with the Dhamma? Why do we bother with learning what the Buddha taught us? And then people say, well, that's because people don't understand impermanence. Who doesn't understand the world is impermanent? Name one human being who thinks that a tree that is there today will be there 1,000,000 years from now. I mean, they'd be an idiot, don't you think? Someone who rejects the principle of impermanence is an idiot. By idiot, I don't mean to offend. I mean, they just don't know the first thing about existence. Who doesn't know that their parents will die one day? Anyone? Any idiots in the room? Who doesn't know that they will die one day? Before you listened to the Buddha's teaching, did you not know that? In fact, isn't that why you came to listen to the teaching? Because life is so impermanent. All the good things that were happening in your life wouldn't last forever, and they just kept on fleeting away, and that bothered you. So wasn't the reason you came to listen to the teaching because life was impermanent and you already realized that? Yes or no? Speak up. Yes. When did you ever have an infinite supply of your favorite cake? Was it not impermanent? Every time you took a bite, and that taste, that lovely taste, that delicious taste, did it last forever? Was that not impermanent? When your friend came to see you, were they there with you forever? I mean, you didn't want them to be there with you, but that's besides the point. But were they there with you forever? No, was that not impermanent? Don't you know, even before the Buddha's teaching, that all good things and bad things will pass away? All things shall pass. Did you not know that? There you go. So, what is this impermanence that you have come to this asana to realize that you didn't already know? If impermanence is what you have come here to learn, you're already experts in that. So much so that that is why you have come here. You already knew that life was impermanent. You know that you're going to die one day. You know your children are going to leave you one day. You know your parents are going to leave you one day. Your loved ones are going to leave you one day. And now you know that there's going to be a problem. When that happens, you're going to be a train crash. You know you're not going to be able to face those situations. That's why you're here. You're looking for solace. So you're here because you already know that life is impermanent. You're not here to learn or understand that life is impermanent. You already know that. Yes or no? Fine, let's proceed then. Impermanence is not the crux of Buddhist teaching. The Bodhisattva knew that. Everybody knows that. But what they don't understand is what we try to explain with this concept of anicca. That all things are manifestations, meaning nothing is ever complete. Nothing is ever completely made. Nothing is ever finished. It's all in a process of making. That's why I said the other day, you are all human beings. It's in the present continuous. The simple present is be, and the present continuous is being. Meaning you are being. Right now, you're being. You're constantly being. Being what? Human. That's why you're a human being. You're not a human be, or a human was, or a human will be. What are you? A human being. Meaning, are you done? Are you done, human being? Are you done? No. When can you be done? If it's a present continuous, when can you be done? You can never be done because you're always human being. What is the chair that you're sat on? How about that then? What is the chair that you sat on? What can you say about the chair that you sat on? That's not a human being. What is it? It's a chair being. Now by being, don't think that I'm trying to imply that they are sentient. That's not what I mean. What I'm saying is, it's not done. It's in a process. Right now. How about now then? And now? And now? How about now? See, it's constantly being, never done. Constantly being. What about the roof over your head? Watch out. Why? Because it's not done yet. That's why you have to always watch out. Because it's not done yet. See, something that is done cannot be broken. It's done. That's why your lives are so fragile. Because in the next moment, you change one of those causes and it's a different effect. Do you understand what I'm trying to get across to you, folks? Now I want you to engage with me, okay? Because I know this is a bit heavy, as last week's sermon was. And I'm adding a little bit more onto what we discussed last week as well. I wanted to go over old stuff, but things come from somewhere and then you're responsible for that. Stop doing merits and we can talk about a Jataka tale or something. So moral of the story, stop doing merits. Then we can talk about it. The rabbit and the tortoise. This roof above your head, why could it fall at any point? I mean, are you 100% sure that it'll never fall? Swaminas, I wish you never said that. Now you're conscious of that. Why are you never sure about anything? Why are you not sure about your lives? Why should you look either side of the road before you cross? It's because you're not a human being, that's why. See if you can try and understand what I'm trying to get across, ladies and gentlemen, because this is actually quite a profound concept. I'm trying to express it with a few riddles, but also try to make it meaningful at the same time. I'm not intentionally trying to make it full of riddles, but sometimes it comes out like that. The reason you have to look either side before you cross, look for oncoming traffic, is because you are not a human being. It's because you are a human being. Meaning, just imagine a process that was, say, a process. There was a process. Just imagine there was a process that fits caps over pens like this. Okay, so it's continuously doing that. So there's a instrument, or there's some device, part of the process or the machine that brings the pen in this fashion, and then there's another part that puts the cap over its top like this. So it keeps on doing that. At some point, is it not possible that some part of the machine goes wrong and then you have the pen come out like this with the cap on like that? Isn't that because it's constantly happening so that anything could change at any time? Yeah? Anything could change at any time because it's not done. It's doing. Right now, it's doing. It's happening. Constantly happening. So the only moment that you can have any confidence in is this moment. This very moment is the only moment that you can say with full confidence, this is what it is. This is what it is. The next moment is anybody's guess. That's not because this moment changes to the next moment. Because then people think that I'm talking about impermanence again. It's not because this moment, whatever is here in this moment, changes in the next moment. I'm not talking about change because the concept of change is flawed. The whole concept of change is built on a foundation that is flawed. Because to talk about change, you have to talk about fixed things. When things exist, they change. Things don't exist to change. If you're constantly being, was it the you that was before that has become someone else now? If you're constantly being? Let's try that again. Wake up. Let's try that again. I'm trying to get across the concept of anicca. And then you will realize how it's worlds apart from the concept of impermanence. People take it very lightly as impermanence and how things exist today. They keep on changing. The problem with this keep on changing business is you have already accepted a flawed principle that there are things that exist in this world. I promise you this, if you stick to your guns and you keep to that, if you keep to that opinion, I don't know how you can get to Nibbāna. Personally, I don't know how. Because to understand Nibbāna is to understand that there is nothing that is fixed that keeps on changing. Meaning, there is nothing fixed to be impermanent. It's so sad that that is how the majority of, let's say, Buddhists today interpret the Buddha's teaching. That they believe what the Buddha's purpose was, the Buddha's teaching was to talk about impermanence. He came into this world and he said that all things change. My question back to you again is, did you not already know that? Was that rocket science? If someone came up to you and said, for 4 incalculable eons, a Buddha, a Bodhisattva had to strive to come to that realization, what would you say? He should have just asked me. Isn't that what he would say? He should have just asked me. I would have told him. 6 years of austerity. What a pity. If he'd asked me whether this is going to grow old and die, I would have said yes, because I know that already. I've seen it happen right in front of my eyes. That's no surprise. And that's what the Buddha discovered. You'd stop calling him the Buddha. No wonder people don't regard the Buddha so highly, because they don't understand what the Buddha actually discovered. No wonder people are not big fans of the Buddha. That's why people only go to the temple after the fact. What after the fact? When they want to be repaired? Mother died? Temple. Father's ill? Temple. Bad omen? Temple. The devil's here? Temple. See? That's not why you should go to the temple. Not to be repaired, but to be put in a state where you don't break. You don't break when you understand that there is nothing to break. People break because they think they are there, and now I'm going to break. There is nothing to break, because this was never finished to break. In the next moment, ladies and gentlemen, there will be causes that will manifest an effect. So you might wonder, how come then that this pen looks the same to what it was before? See, I've been looking at this pen for like the last 5 minutes, and nothing about it has changed, you might say. But if, say, for example, we kept looking at it for the next 10 years, maybe the next 20 years, then it'll show signs of wear and tear. It'll show signs of old age. But for the last 5 minutes, Swami, also nothing's changed. What are you talking about manifesting? Well, when the same causes come together, they will always manifest the same effect. That's not to say that this was the one thing that was here 5 minutes ago. Let me give you a very simple example of that. I've been holding this pen up like this for the last few minutes, haven't I? 5 minutes ago, assuming 5 minutes ago was when I held up this pen, or when I held this pen up, there was an amount of energy from the food that I had consumed that was then converted to chemical energy and then physical energy, and that was transferred through my muscles, and that kept this pen up here. 5 minutes ago was when the first quantity of energy was delivered to these muscles to keep the pen up here. Was that enough? What did I have to do in the next second? Transfer another bout of energy. In the next second, another amount of energy. In the following second, another amount of energy. So do you see that this is never here? If this is here, I can take my hand away and it will be there. Do you understand? If this is now here, thanks to the first quantity of energy that was supplied to put it there, I can now remove my hand and the pen will still be there. It will levitate. But do you see, the moment I take that energy away, the pen changes position. No, it didn't change position. We talk about change because we always fit it into a frame of reference. Our minds do that. Our minds love to tell stories. Don't you all love a nice story? Yes, we all love stories. That's why they say a good speaker should give what? Stories. Start with a story. Yes? There you go. People love stories. People love stories because it helps them to fix things. Because the mind is constantly looking to entitify the world and fix things in places. That's why now when I move my hand down, you think that the position of the pen has changed. It hasn't changed, ladies and gentlemen. Causes kept it up here at this moment. Causes now keep it here. Causes now keep it here. Causes now keep it here, and so on. It is not that this has changed to this. This and this have nothing to do with each other. They are discrete moments. They are discrete moments, each moment manifesting as a result of the causes that are present in that moment. That is why you are a human being, not a human being. That's why it's not right to say that you are impermanent. Because when you think about impermanence, you're talking about an object that keeps on changing. It's not change that's happening. Because if you're talking about change, you can talk about what it was a moment ago and what it is now. Then you're talking about an entity again. See, if you said that this has changed to this has changed to this, what you're implying is, this was this before. You will need 110% attention to understand this, okay? So your full attention and then some. I don't know where you're going to get that some, but you get my point. When you talk about this, was this before? You're talking about a pen object that always was there and it just kept on changing. But my point is this, when was the pen there to change? Because if you are a human being, what is this? A pen? Being. Being what? A pen. This is being a pen. What is this being a pen? You see, there are causes here. If you, for all intents and purposes, let's say atoms, intermolecular bonds, energies, matter. This matter is currently being a pen. What is the matter that's on those chairs doing right now? The matter. What is the matter that is on those chairs doing right now? Being what? Being human. I'm talking about that matter. The matter on the chair. What is that matter doing right now? Being human. So Now let's say I serve you some, we serve ourselves some food. Now you're going to get some sandwiches at the end of the day. Right? So when you take a sandwich into your hands, right, and you're about to eat it, here's a contemplation you can do. When you take that sandwich, you look at the sandwich. What is matter doing right now in that sandwich? Is that a sandwich made? A ready-made sandwich? That's what they say though. Ready-made sandwiches. That's what people say. If you go to the restaurant, you can order ready-made sandwiches. There are no ready-made sandwiches, ladies and gentlemen. Matter is what? Is being a sandwich. Matter is not a sandwich. Matter is being a sandwich. So they are sandwich beings. If you could zoom in into that sandwich, let's take that a slice of bread, right? Then you start seeing the molecules. Go further and you see the atoms. Those atoms are constantly held together. They're not there, they're being there. If the attractive forces between these atoms were to break at any moment, what would these atoms do? They would disperse. When? When would they disperse? Can you give me a time? Because it's not time bound. It's cause and effect bound. Effects are not time bound. Effects are bound to the causes and the conditions that keep it in that way. This is a lesson on anicca, by the way, okay? At least you should walk home and know that is what I tried to teach you. Otherwise people ask you, what did Swami Nasi talk about today? At least if someone asks, please tell them I taught you about anicca. Once you begin to understand this concept, then you'll realize why it took the Bodhisattva 4 incalculable eons to understand it all by himself. I mean, folks, it's one thing to understand it when someone teaches it to you. It's another to understand it all by yourself. One day when you realize what I'm trying to get across to you, you will wonder, how on earth can someone realize this all by themselves? How can someone who's in the dark come to know that they're in the dark without someone coming and shining the light at them? It's nothing short of a miracle. To this day, I cannot figure out how a Buddha is born. I tell you that. It must be merits. That's what I can boil it down to. It must be merits. It must be the paramita. It must be the perfecting that they do. That's why they're called the 10 perfections. They keep on perfecting themselves, not knowing really what the destination is. All they know is they want to be free of suffering, and they want that for themselves and everyone. But they don't know exactly what to do for that. Then you're entirely at the mercy of the universe. The forces that be, you're entirely at their mercy. So the only way then to achieve that happiness is to keep throwing at the universe good stuff and hope that the universe will throw some of that good stuff back at you. That's what merits are. That is what merits are. That's why we are always going on about merits. Keep on doing your merits. So much so that if you can't understand what I'm trying to explain to you right now, it's not my fault. What you need is more merits. For wisdom to shine within, you have to help the world see the light. And then the light will be shone back at you. That's how it works. Right, let's come back. When you take a sandwich and you are about to eat that sandwich, as you will be doing later on today, ask yourself this question. If this is already a sandwich, how can I eat it? And then it become me after a while. See, if it's a ready-made sandwich, it's a sandwich. That's it. It'll forever be a sandwich. Because it's made, it's done, kaput, done, sorted. The only reason that that sandwich can be eaten, it can be absorbed, it can be ingested, and then go on to become you, is because it's not a done sandwich, it's not a fixed sandwich, it's not a finished sandwich. It is a sandwich being. It can stop being a sandwich and start being what? Human. Aren't you the sandwich that you ate a few days ago? Aren't you? Aren't you the carrot that you ate a few days ago? So when you ate that carrot, what was that? It was matter being a carrot. And then you ate it. And then what is it now? It is matter being human. So was that a done carrot? Was a carrot done? That's it, carrot. It will forever be a carrot. No, it was always being. That's why whenever anything is being, you can stop it being. That's not impermanence. Impermanence we talk about when you fix something and say what happens to it as it traverses time. It as it traverses time. So when you say, my mother was much younger than she is now, say 20 years ago. In your mind, you have a picture of the mother who was 20 years ago. And today you say, my mother is 20 years older, you can see that. See, she has aged, you might say. See, you're not talking about the present mother now. You're talking about someone who was there 20 years ago, and then what you're doing is you're drawing a line between that person who was there, this person who is now, and saying this person transformed to become this person today. So they have changed to become who they are now. Meaning there was a certain entity that was always there that kept on changing. That's how you perceive that. An entity kept on changing. There was no entity to keep on changing. What was what was. And what is what is. What is not or was not what was. What am I saying? What is was not what was. To me, it makes perfect sense. At least it makes sense to one person in the room, doesn't it? Do you understand what I'm trying to get across to you? What is was not what was. What is always what is. Only in this moment. Now the problem is this, when we start talking about present moments, you'll start thinking about again on the frame of time. I don't want you to do that. Try and stop yourself from doing that. Actually, you can't stop yourself trying and stop yourself doing that. All you have to do is understand that that is not what I'm talking about. Because when we talk about the present moment, here's what some people misunderstand this concept as. Say, for example, you hear this sound. That sound. Some schools of thought will teach you that what you have to do is focus on that sound. Don't think that it's coming from the bowl, from the saucer. There's water, it's on the table. Don't think about any of that. Just focus on the sound. So then people will teach you, don't think about what this was in the past, because your mind will wander into the past. You will start recalling memories of when you might have heard something like that in the past. Don't let your mind wander. Try and keep it in the present moment. Some schools of thought will teach you that. That's why they get you to listen to things like rain splattering on the window, chimes of a bell, or you keep staring at something, an object, maybe a fire, a flame. Try and not let your mind wander. Keep it fixed on one object. I'll tell you why. I tell you why people try to not let their mind wander. It's because when your mind wanders, you start thinking about things that bring you suffering. For example, you're looking at a fire, and then let's say you're reminded of, somehow the fire reminds you of maybe a time where you had a bonfire with some friends, and now that friend, one of those friends, is dead, and now your heart starts to grieve again. So then, no, bring your mind back. Bring it back to the present. Bring it back to the present. Just this fire. Don't let it wander. So you try again. Okay, I'm going to try and just keep my focus on this flame, not any other flame. And you keep on focusing on this flame. Once again, what happens after a while? Your mind starts to wander. And it goes back to now not the bonfire, but to a barbecue. And there was another fire. Then a few of your friends got around together. You had food to drink, food and drinks to have, right? Then you were partying, you were dancing, you were singing, you were talking about all sorts of things, and now you even start smiling and laughing. And then your meditation master says, back to the present. Okay, present. So people don't know how to deal with those emotions. That's the thing. They don't know how, like the stuff we talked about last week, remember? When we talked about how your mind makes accidents out of incidents. Yeah? So because people don't know how to deal with those emotions, those emotional responses, they just want something to focus on that doesn't drag them into those memories and the future. Because the future always brings you fear, and the past brings you sorrow. Life summed up, right? The future brings you fear, the past brings you grief. That's life summed up. So because people don't know how to stop them from arising, not the memories, not thoughts of a future or thoughts of a past, but the emotional baggage that comes with that. People don't know how to deal with that. People don't know how to stop that from happening. That emotional baggage, they think a past memory brings grief with it. But it doesn't. So when someone's reminded about their dead mother or their dead father or someone loved one in the family, they think that event brings grief to them. That's why they try not to think about them. That's why there are some films you don't like to watch, because it reminds you of things from the past. That's why there may be some photo albums that you don't like to open, have a look at, because it reminds you of the past. And then there are others that you like to, because it has sentimental value. Because it helps you take a trip down memory lane. As you look at your loved one's photos, that joy that you had at that time, you feel these photos will bring that joy back to life today. It's okay when it's good for you and you enjoy it, but what happens when you don't? That's why you don't like to talk to your ex-husband. That's why you don't like to talk to your ex-wife or someone who gave you the boot. That's why you don't like to have things that remind you of them at home. Yes? Things that you might be reminded of them. Maybe your first crush. They might have given you something, some ornament. But your parents were against that. And the sight of it always makes your heart weep. So what do? you threw it away. Because you don't know how to deal with the emotional baggage that comes when that memory comes. So much so that people think that it is the memory that brings that baggage with it. No. All suffering is made in this moment. Just as that memory is made in this moment. Because all things are only available, are only present in the present moment. Once again though, when I say present moment, I need you to understand that what I mean by this is not present in terms of time. Present, I mean in terms of the causes present. Can you try and understand it that way? Actually, that's a really nice way of putting it. Thank you. Thank you. I don't mean temporal presence. Okay? I don't mean temporal presence. Temporal meaning time. I don't mean tick tock present. Not that present. The causes present. Whatever the causes are that are present, they are the causes that will manifest an effect. I mean, what other causes can manifest an effect? Because if they're not present, they can't manifest an effect, can they? I mean, how can 1 and 1 make 3? Because the only causes that are present are 1 and 1. They can only make what? 2. Whose fault is that? What point would there be in grieving about that? What point would there be in worrying about that? There's nothing to grieve or to worry. It's just to accept that if 1 and 1 are what are present, then 2 is going to be the effect, because those are the causes that are present. So whatever effect you come across in life, do try and understand that it is an effect because of the causes that are present. All effects are conditional on the causes present, meaning it's not fixed. For as long as those causes are present, the effect will present itself. See, this word present, I love it because it has many connotations. The causes that are present will present an effect. It will manifest as an effect, and that will present an effect. But whatever you do, don't bring in time presence, because it has nothing to do with time. Because when you start talking about time presence, now you can talk about a time past and a time future. Because even in the past and in the future, all that was only what was present. You take any past moment. What presented itself at that moment was the manifestation of causes that were present. Wasn't it? Because the causes were present. So an effect presented itself. Take a moment in the future. Some moment, imaginary moment in the future. I mean, it's always going to be imaginary because it's the future. You can imagine a future. In that future, whatever will present itself will be the product. It will be the product of causes that will be present at that moment. Yes? There you go. So, if all we have are presentations of effects of causes that are present, then no two moments are actually related to each other. Every moment is merely a presentation of causes that are present. That's it. So take two moments that are so close to each other. You might say they are seconds apart. If you like, milliseconds apart. If you want to go better, femtoseconds apart. Attoseconds apart. Nanoseconds apart. Whatever you like. Take two moments that are in immediate proximity to each other. What do you have in this moment? What presents itself in this moment? The causes that are present. What presents in this moment? The causes that are present. What does this have to do with this? What does this have to do with this? Nothing. So let's imagine here it's like this and here it's like this. It's like this here, straight upright, because of the causes that are present. In the next moment, it's going to bend like this. Can you see me bend? Right? It's like this because of the causes that are present in that moment. Are you going to suggest that this changed to this? Are you going to suggest that this changed to this? What have these two things got to do with each other? They are discrete manifestations, presentations of causes that are present in each of those moments. That's why you are a human being. You have to constantly be, continuously be. So you could say you're a continuous human being. That's what you're doing. You're constantly and continuously, rather than constantly, you're continuously human being. Then what about this pen? This is continuously pen being, or being a pen. What about the Citta? It is continuously being a Citta. There's an energy here. This is an energy. It's a bout of energy. It's just a pulse of energy, if you like. A pulse of energy. Just like the photons that people talk of when they talk about light energy and so on. Energy can be, the scientists talk about quantifying energy, photons, right? So in that manner, just imagine each Citta was a photon of energy. Let's not worry about how much that is, how many joules or kilojoules. It matters not. Just keep it simple. Let's just say it's a quantity of energy. This is how this energy, this quantity of energy presents itself. Why does it present itself as a Citta? Why did this present itself as a pen? Because of the causes that present themselves as a pen. Then why does a Citta present itself as a Citta? Because of the causes that present themselves as an effect, and that effect is what we call a Citta. I will hand out a sandwich by myself to all of you just for being in this sermon today. This is the kind of stuff I know that you will understand eventually. But this is the stuff you need to understand, ladies and gentlemen. It's not really, you know what? This is not complicated. I promise you it's not complicated. If it were, I wouldn't be able to understand it. I'm a very simple man. This is not complicated. It's just a little bit, it's subtle. It's like threading a needle. Threading a needle is not complicated, is it? But it's subtle. You have to be very careful when you thread a needle. Very meticulous. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science. But it takes time, and you have to be very patient with it. If you rush, you can't thread a needle because you have a thread that has to pass through a tiny hole. That's what makes it subtle. It's the same deal here. I'm asking you, I'm inviting you, I'm encouraging you to think about yourself in a way you've never thought before. No wonder it's going to take a while. Because throughout your entire existence in samsara, this was the last thing that crossed your mind. And truth be told, it will be the last thing, quite literally, that crosses your mind in samsara. It's funny how that has another meaning. Pardon the pun. What I need you to understand is the concept of anicca. I don't expect you to get it in one sermon. but you have to get it eventually. Not for my sake, but for your sake. Everywhere you see anicca is there. Anicca is really this concept that what is ease. What is. In other words, what is presented is a presentation of the causes that are present. Try and think outside the boundaries of time, because the moment we talk about present, your mind will start to wander into the past, the future, and you think, no, you're talking about the present moment. That's why I said, that type of meditation, people will encourage you to sometimes try that out. They say, don't get dragged into the past or into the future, because in the past and the future are demons. And you all know that in the past and the future there are demons. Demons of fear and demons of sorrow or grief. I mean, isn't that why you can't be happy? Now your mind always starts to go into the past. Right? Something you did, something that was done to you. Or it starts going into the future, traveling into the future. What might happen if this happens? What might happen if that happens? What if she does this? What if she does that? What if they don't talk to me again? So always living in regrets, the what could have beens, and the what should be's. So because the mind lingers in the past and the future, the mind cannot be happy. And so people think what they should do then is try and bring the mind to the present moment. And then they say, that is the now that you have to think about. There's a very popular book written on this subject, so I'm not going to name it, because it wouldn't be very, very good of me to do so. But they talk about now. Be now. Don't go into the past, don't go into the future, just be now. What they're saying is, sound. Or a flame. Just keep staring at the flame. Don't let the flame bring back memories of the past, or don't let you wander into the future. And if it does, come back again to the present. Folks, you can't attain Nibbāna like that. Here's what you can do though. If you practice that, you can practice one-pointedness. Focus on one thing and one thing alone. One-pointedness. That you can practice by doing that. Yes, it will settle the mind. You will stop thinking about the past, so much so that you will even stop planning the future. So you won't be actually able to live a normal life, because you won't be able to plan this evening's meal. You won't be able to plan what your children are supposed to do. Do the school run, cook at home. You won't be able to live this life if you become so good at what they ask you to do. Because you will always be focusing on one thing. How can you live like that? How can you get yourself from the bedroom to the washroom? If you're always single-minded or single-pointed, one-pointed. You have to work out a plan, don't you? When you head out somewhere, you have to work out a plan. When you go shopping, you need to know, right, first I'm going to go to the bread aisle, then I'm going to the milk aisle, then I go to the vegetables, then I go to the fruit, then I go to the cereal. You've got to plan all this out. So if all you're thinking is what is in the present moment, how can you plan about the future? Then you're lost. The Buddha that taught me didn't teach such kind of lessons. What the Buddha that taught me was, whatever comes to your mind, whatever, be that a memory from the past, or be that something that is to happen in the future, understand that they are all simply presentations of causes that are present. And here's what happens when you do that. When you understand that all that presents themselves, or all that presents are presentations of causes that are present, you realize that all manifestations are causal. And then you stop fixing them or entity-fying them, considering them to be fixed, made, done things. Do you recall last week's sermon? I drew a citta on the board, a few of these, and I explained to you, that this is a womb. In this womb, there's a fetus. We call this Játhi. When this Játhi occurs in the mind, it gives the citta in which it was born a perception, a feeling, a sensation that it is an entity. What is a citta after all? It is a presentation of causes that are present, which goes completely against, which is completely the opposite of what this Játhi makes the citta feel it is. Once again, like all things, a citta is also a presentation of causes that are present. Meaning it is a phenomenon that is a manifestation of anicca. There's anicca all over this. It's written all over it. A citta can only come into being. Anything that comes into being can only come into being because there are causes that bring it to being. Yeah? And a citta is not ready-made. It's not done. It's being a citta, just like you are human beings, which we talked about. So this citta, which is being a citta, not be a citta, not was a citta, not will be a citta, is being a citta. This is in the present continuous. I want you to think about how it's happening on the fly. Okay? It's being a citta. This is energy that is being a citta. In that citta, you have this thing called Játhi. The Játhi itself is also being Játhi. Nothing is ever done. Nothing is finished. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is an entity. This Játhi itself is also being Játhi. But here's the issue. When that happens, when this Játhi comes into being, it creates this effect, this perception, which renders itself on the citta that the citta is an entity. That is why you sense that you are an individual and unique being. It is completely invalid. What you feel right now, that you are a sentient being, you are unique, your identity, all of these really, ladies and gentlemen, are creations of the mind. This feeling that you have that you are an entity, it's a creation of the mind, and this is how it happens. But the truth is, this itself is a manifestation of causes. This Játhi itself is a manifestation of causes. But see, the betrayal here. What a betrayal. Because what is a manifestation of causes gives the citta on which it has manifested the impression that I am not a manifestation of causes, I am. Full stop. That's why you feel you are. Who walked into the room 2 hours ago? Who did? I did, right? Is the answer you all have. Yeah? I did. You don't feel like it was a different citta that walked in. It was an entirely different individual that walked in. You don't feel like that, do you? You actually feel that it was you who walked into this room, right? See? That is because in your minds, you entitify things. Things which are manifestations of causes, what you do is you put a wrapper around them. It's like if you were to put a wrapper around this pen, you would no longer call this a cap and a body. It would be one unit. Just think about it that way. It would be one unit. It's like, sometimes those batteries that you can't buy individuals, or those chocolates you can't buy as individuals, you have to buy the whole thing. They say not for individual resale, they have, on the box, you have to buy the whole thing. It's either all or none, right? So in the same manner, what this tends to do is put a wrapper around the Citta, making the Citta feel this is all ignorance. This is a delusion. This is a hallucination. It makes you feel that you are an entity. And what happens then is the worst part. When you begin to feel that you are an entity, everything that you see through your eyes becomes an entity. Everything you hear through your ears becomes an entity. Everything you smell, everything you taste, everything you touch becomes an entity. Everything you think about becomes an entity. Your mother becomes an entity. Your loved ones become an entity. Your children become entities. Your house becomes an entity. And then all hell breaks loose. When they are entities, they are subject to change. Because only entities change. So my mother grows old. And I don't like that. It makes me very sad. See? Something I loved, it fell on the floor and it was shattered into pieces. See what happened? This was an ornament. It had great value to me because it was an entity. Because it was an entity, what could happen to it? Break. See, when this pen falls, just imagine this. Don't worry, I'll stop, okay? In a moment. Otherwise you'll go bumping into things today. When this pen falls, if that were to happen, would you say that the pen is broken? Ladies and gentlemen, when the pen falls, if that were to happen, would you say that the pen is broken? Okay. When this falls, I'm going to try it in a moment so you all... When this falls, if something of that sort were to happen, what would you say? Broken. And that's because this is all one unit. Isn't it? It's all one unit. Whereas this, you realize, 2 units. So when this happens, you don't call it breaking. But imagine if this were to split, it cracked and the 2 pieces, it broke into 2 pieces and the 2, spread apart. Now what would you say? The barrel broke. If the same were to happen to the cap, you say the cap broke. But if this happens, you don't say the pen broke. You might say the pen came apart. Because you see that these are both parts, not a whole. Your Citta is the same. It's a lot of parts. But this Játhi doesn't let you think that way. The Buddha goes on to explain what the parts are that bring the Citta together. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. A bunch of parts. And then when you ask the Buddha, Venerable Sir, what about Rupa itself? Yes, he says, Vipaka. That is avidya, trishna, karma. Ahar, which is nourishment, and nibbati lakkana. These are the causes that keep Rupa together. Then there are causes that keep Vedana together. Then there are causes that keep Sanya together. There are causes that keep Sankhara together. And there are causes that keep Vijnana together. Those 5 things, Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, they keep the Citta together. Just a bunch of parts. But when Játhi happens, all that out the window. That's like switching off the light. And now you're back in darkness. Because when Játhi happens, This Játhi, that's why I said this is the ultimate betrayal. This is the ultimate betrayal. Játhi is a product of causes. But when that effect comes into being, it gives the impression to the Citta into which it was born, I am not a product of causes. I am. That's it. Just imagine if your children would one day come up to you and said, I was not born from you. Imagine your child comes up to you and says, you are who? You say, I'm my mother. Okay. I wasn't born from you or anything like that. I was worse. I was always there. I wasn't born from you. At that point, would you not sit him down and say, hey, you, the very reason that you can say something like this was because I gave birth to you. Wouldn't you? The very reason that you can say something like this was because I gave birth to you. Had I not given birth to you, you would not have been able to say something like that. Can you not say the same about Játhi? Anicca is the mother of Játhi. It is because of anicca Játhi comes into being. And then Játhi says, I was not born out of causes. I always was. That is why I say that is the ultimate betrayal. Everything Játhi touches, turns to gold. No, everything Játhi touches, it makes the mind feel is actually an entity. Chittas are always born to perceive objects. Whatever object it perceives, a Citta without Játhi would perceive it as a manifestation of causes that are present. That's how a Citta would normally perceive an object. The object that it was born to perceive, that is how we would perceive it. But in the presence of Játhi, because Játhi gives the Citta an impression that there's nothing here that is anicca. All there are fixed things. These are all entities. Now the Citta goes crazy, goes mad. It starts hallucinating. And then it says, well, that object that I was born to perceive, it's actually an entity of an object. So it no longer sees this as parts coming together. It sees this whole thing as one unit. When you see this as one unit, just imagine, folks, last thing I'll say for today. Imagine if you actually thought that this was one unit and these were not two parts. When this pen falls and it splits up like this, what would you say has happened to the pen? What would you say? That the pen has broken. Wouldn't you? I'll ask you again. If you didn't know that these were two parts held together and you actually thought that this was one unit and this pen falls and this splits, these two parts come apart, what would you say has happened to the pen? Broken. Has the pen actually broken? No. You perceive it to have broken. Has your mother actually aged? Have you aged? Did your grandfather die? Then why do you say that? What is a funeral? What is a funeral? Have fun going to the next one. What is a funeral, ladies and gentlemen? There's matter. And then what do? They bury it. And then what's there? Matter. In 10 years' time? Matter. 50 years' time? Still matter. It's in the earth now. Matter. After a while it becomes fertilizer. Still matter. Then it nourishes the apple tree. The roots start drawing on the nutrients. Then it becomes an apple. What is it again? Matter. Then someone at home plucks the apple and eats it. Have you just eaten your grandfather? Are you a grandfatheritarian? Have you just eaten your grandfather? I ask you. No, you don't even want to think of it like that. You say, I just ate an apple, but that apple was matter that was in your grandfather. So what's a funeral then? People love a story. They enjoy a story. They make stories and they suffer. No one died. But everybody loves a nice story. So what do? They invent a story. And they invite everyone. And they make a big do about it. Because people need things to carry on with their lives, don't they? Something has to happen every day. Some event or the other. If it's not a funeral, it has to be a birthday. What's an anniversary? Events. An eventful mind, see? An eventful mind makes events out of incidents. That's why I don't celebrate birthdays. Because I ask myself the question, what is a birthday? What is a birthday? What is an anniversary? But I'm not suggesting that you should stop celebrating them, because if you live a lay life, you have to continue doing these things, otherwise people will think that you are a social piranha. And then they'll take you somewhere safe. So, if you live on that side of paradise, what's that called? Thank you, not me, you said it. If you live on that side of paradise, you have to live, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. I'm not suggesting that you should stop doing the things that you have to do as a citizen. But what I'm suggesting is, do them because you have to do them. Because society expects this of you. Because your friends, your family expect it of you, do it. They don't know what you're thinking, do they? So here's what I ask you to do. Offer your mind to the Buddha. Offer your body to your family. And to your friends. And to your colleagues. And to the rest of the world. They won't care what's going through your mind, as long as they can get what they want from you. You know, as long as they don't know you're cheating, it's fine. I didn't say that. At least I didn't say what you thought I said. Because in your mind, if you are cheating, that's bad for you. That's bad for you. Because that earns you demerits. But to the other person, as long as they don't know you're cheating, as long as you're there when they need you to be, you're there for the birthdays, you're there for the anniversaries, you bring the presents, you say hello, you kiss goodnight, as long as that's all going on, you're scratching their back and that's fine. How do they know what's going in your mind? They don't know what's going through your minds. That's what I'm saying. Use it to your advantage, that people can't read your minds. Thankfully, otherwise they'd be expecting you to not only do, but also to think. It's not enough for you to say, I love you, right? You have to show it. Isn't it? See? That's what I mean. It's not enough for you to say, I love you. You can't just say, I love you, okay? Right, fine. Let's move on to the next thing. That's not fine, because that doesn't scratch their back. What should you do? You have to show that you love them. How? Ask them how. It's not good enough for you to come up with that. Because what scratches your back might not be what scratches their back. Ask them how. And then they'll tell you, I want you to do this for me, I want you to do that for me. He'll give you a list of check boxes. Provided you can tick as many of those check boxes, they will actually believe that you love them. It would matter not what you actually thought in your mind. That's why I say, if you have come to the human world to make the most of your human lives, offer your mind to the Buddha. Lay it down at his feet. Offer your mind to the Dhamma. Offer your mind to the Mahasangha. That is what Buddhang, Dhammang, Sanghang, Saranang, Gacchami means. And let the world have your body. Let them do whatever they like with it. While it's alive, as well as after it's dead. Let them do whatever they like with it. If they want to feed it to the dogs, let them. If they want you to dress smart, you dress smart. If they want you to put makeup on, put makeup on. Not because your mind wants it though, because the Buddha doesn't want that. The Buddha wants you to understand that you are complete. Not for you to think that you are inadequate or you are incomplete or there are things on your face that you have to cover up before you can feel that you're complete. If you're doing it for your own satisfaction, you're a failure. At the Buddha's feet, by his standards, you're a failure. But do it because the world expects it from you. So spray some perfume on yourself before you walk out because the world expects it of you. Put on your deodorant. The world will expect it of you. The last thing you want is to stand next to someone with your arm up and they're holding the bus, right? Because people will not like that. Last thing they want to stand is stand next to someone who smells. They don't like that. But that shouldn't offend you. If you find that repulsive, that's your problem. So dress nicely. What is nice? Ask them. When you go to work, dress smart. What is smart? Ask them. When you go to a wedding, dress appropriately. What is appropriate? Ask them. When you go to the funeral, dress in that manner. How? Ask them. On every invitation card, normally they say, right? Dress code, formal, casual, and so on. Ask them and do as they want you to do. You might be happy with just rice and curry. But if the world, by world I mean everyone else out there, if they want you today to have a barbecue, you have a barbecue. Maybe a sandwich is enough for you because that's all you need to sate your hunger. But your friends want you to go out for dinner. Then go out to the dinner. Not because you want to. Because the world expects it of you. My life as a monastic has severed those expectations with the outside world. You don't come and invite me to go out for a meal, do you? And that is only because I'm in a robe. If you and I had met in other circumstances, we would have become friends and you would have invited me to go out for a meal. Then how can I say no? That would hurt your feelings. And then you would think that I'm not friends with you, I'm not friendly with you. That would hurt your feelings. And then I would find it very difficult to survive because then I have to go apply for my next job. And there I have to give them a reference. I have to come to you for that reference. And if you're not happy with me, if you think I'd offended you when I rejected your invitation, now I'm not going to get the job I need. Then, see, It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, ladies and gentlemen. The more you understand the Dhamma, the more you'll realize that a monastic lifestyle is congruent with your way of thinking. It is in sync with the way of your thinking. The less you understand the Dhamma, you'll realize that the lay world out there is congruent with your way of thinking. It converges with your way of thinking. It is your way of thinking. Because what do they do in the lay world? When you want it, you go get it. What do you do in the monastic world? When you want it, you work on the wanting. You work on eradicating the wanting. You don't go get it. You get the heck out of it. That's what you do. That's what you do. That is how these two worlds are different. But I understand that this is not for everyone. Duties, obligations, responsibilities, and all those things are there. I understand that. It was not easy for me to make that jump. There were things that I had to attend to and make sure they were balanced and all that. So it's not easy for everyone, and it's not for everyone. Maybe your time is going to be in another 100 lifetimes. Maybe. Maybe yours is in the next lifetime. Maybe. Maybe yours is next year. Or maybe tomorrow. Who knows? But no matter when that is going to be, when your agenda or your timeline has you coming into this asana, what I suggest you do is offer your mind to the Buddha. That when can you do? That you can do now, right? But don't tell anyone that you've done that. Because here's what they'll say. I don't want you just to love me, I want you actually to love me. If they knew that you're just acting it out, that wouldn't be enough. There would be no way for them to check whether you actually love them, but they would still want it. Because, last thing I am going to say, because that they feel would be the piece that's missing in their lives to help them feel complete. Now we've gone back full circle. Even when they have no way of verifying, even when they have no way of checking whether you actually love them, if you just but once say, honey, is it not enough that I just do all these things? Do I have to actually love you as well? Don't ever say that at home. Then don't come running to me. I mean, you can if you want to stay, but don't come running to me. Don't ever say that. Because what will happen is, remember, you are dealing with people just like you. Incomplete. So when they feel that there's a part of you that's missing, for them to feel that they are complete, they will keep on hammering at you until they get it. Even when they have no way of checking whether you have actually mentally loved them, they will have no way of checking that. They'll still want it. You can't fault them for it. It's just the way an ignorant mind is. Whenever the mind is ignorant, it does this to this. It kind of like tugs on it. That's what it does. It's like, I keep saying this is the last thing I'm saying, and then I just keep on carrying on, right? It's like, imagine there's a guy here. Think of this guy as ignorance. And then he has what you might call a hook. With that hook, this guy tugs on the Citta. This is not what actually happens. It's just to help you understand. Tugs on the Citta. Tugs on this. So what was this now has become this. Meaning, now there's a gap here. Now this gap needs to be filled. The real joke is, because it was ignorance that created this void, it is ignorance that has to fill that void. Yeah? Because it is ignorance that created the void, vipaka won't come and fill it. Because vipaka created a perfect Citta. See? It created a complete, perfect Citta. Ignorance comes along, uses attachment, which is this hook, and it tugs on the Citta, pulls it down, creates a void here. And now, because that void was created by something other than vipaka, there is no vipaka that can come and fill it. There is no vipaka that can fill it. There is no sight, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no thought that can fill it. Because it was ignorance that created it. It's not actually a void. It's a sense of a void. How do you feel that? I mean, just imagine if you wanted an imaginary friend. Who in this room can fill that position? Let's say this gentleman here, he wants an actual friend. There are plenty of you who can come forward and say, I'm happy to be your friend for a day. What if he wants an imaginary friend? Anyone in this room, can you volunteer? Can you? No, who has to do it by themselves? This good gentleman has to do it all by himself. That's exactly what's happening here. This void is a hallucination. It's an imaginary void, therefore it's ignorance that has to fill that void by creating an imaginary entity. That is the self, or Játhi. What does the Játhi process start with? Paticcasamuppada? Avidya, paccaya sankhara. So who has to create it? Avidya. Why does avidya have to create it? Because vipaka can't fill it. Why? Because vipaka creates a perfect citta. It is ignorance or avidya that creates this imaginary void, and therefore it is avidya that has to fill it. So avidya paccaya sankhara. Sankhara paccaya vijnana. Vijnana paccaya namarupa. Namarupa paccaya salāyatana. Salāyatana paccaya phassa. Phassa paccaya vedana. Vedana paccaya tanha. Tanha paccaya upadana. Upadana paccaya bhava. Bhava paccaya what? Játhi. Játi paccaya jara marana shoka parideva dukkha domanassa eva metassa kevalassa dukkha khandassa samudayo hoti. Right, that's enough for a day. And that's enough for like a year, isn't it? So I'll see you all next year, okay? Keep coming to the sermons. If you miss a sermon, watch it online. And keep on doing merits. I can't do that part for you. I can give you a good sermon, but I can't understand this well on your behalf. I can teach it well. I can't understand it well on your behalf. I can teach it well on your behalf, but I can't understand it well on your behalf. I can't comprehend it well on your behalf. No one can. Because comprehension is again a manifestation of wisdom. Wisdom has to be a cause that is present in your citta for comprehension to manifest. Wisdom itself is the product of causes, and those causes are merits. That is also anicca. That's why what you don't understand today, you can understand tomorrow. That's why you shouldn't despair. Geez, I didn't get any of that. Don't despair. You should despair if you are fixed. If that's it, you can't change yourself. You are B. If you are human B, then you have to despair. But you are a human being. So you need not despair. Do merits. And the best kind of merits to do in this instance, you see, if you want food, give food. If you want beauty, give beauty. If you want time, give time. If you want wisdom, give wisdom. If you don't have wisdom to give to those who give wisdom. That's the answer. If you don't have wisdom to give to those who give wisdom. Because now you're giving in the name of wisdom. Just imagine this. You want to feed the poor. Okay? Say you're hungry and you realize that to be full, I have to give food. That's why I don't get food, because I don't give food. Do you actually have to go and feed the person with your hand? Is it not enough to go and give something to a kitchen where they cook it and then they feed it to the homeless? Is that not enough? Does that not achieve the same purpose? Because you're giving to a purpose, isn't it? It's not the hand on which you put it that matters. It's the purpose to which you give. That is what matters. That's why I say, if wisdom is what you lack to understand some of these things, because in every other way, most other ways, to me, you look complete. There are many who have hardly anything at all. They just get by and keep the wolf out the door. Some people struggle to make ends meet. But I suppose for many of you, that's not really a problem at all. I wouldn't say all, many. So maybe what you're lacking now is wisdom. And that is not an insult. Who's there to insult? I'm only talking about cause and effect, that's all. So if wisdom is what you need, either give wisdom. If you don't have wisdom, then give to someone or some place that gives wisdom to others. Because what you need to give is to a purpose. Give to a purpose. Make your giving purposeful. Whatever purpose you give to, that will become your purpose. Make sense? Right, let's do a right transfer and bring the sermon to a close. Let us all take a moment to transfer all the merits that we have acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, listening to the Dhamma and creating a conducive environment for the Swami Maharaj to come along and deliver the Dhamma, as well as creating a conducive environment so that all of you could come along, sit yourselves down comfortably and listen to the teaching and help understand the Dhamma. First and foremost, let us transfer these merits to the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas and upasikas who have since time immemorial protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha and passed it down through the generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study and understand and comprehend the Dhamma. Let us take a moment to transfer these merits to all the monks and nuns resident throughout the world, including the Mahanayakas and the Anunayakas, as well as the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let us also transfer these merits to my teacher, Guru Swami Nuhanse, as well as all the monks resident at the monastery and the Anagarikas and the Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let us take a moment to transfer these merits to those who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, be that by transliterating these talks, sharing them out with others, or inviting others to join them. May they all rejoice in these merits. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to our friends and devotees of the monastery, who for the sake of merits to help them attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna, continue to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes everyone who provide the Mahasangha with shelter, alms, robes, and medicines, as well as pass on their know-how and continue to extend their well-wishes. May they all rejoice in these merits, and by the power of these merits, may they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to our mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our friends, our acquaintances, our employers and our employees, our teachers, as well as anyone and everyone who have helped us, supported us, and assisted us in any way, shape or form. Let us take a moment to transfer these merits to all of them, and by the power of these merits, may they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcoming obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to the Devas and Brahmanas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakadeva, as well as all the numerous gods and deities who have committed themselves to fulfill and preserve the Sambuddha Sasana. Let us transfer these merits to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to our forefathers, our ancestors, our loved ones who've passed away in our name, reminding ourselves that it is in their blood, sweat and tears today we are able to enjoy the comforts of life and practice the path in peace and harmony. Let us transfer these merits to them. Let us also transfer these merits to members of the armed forces as well as the police force who sacrifice their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. Let us transfer these merits to those who have lost their lives to natural disasters and calamities such as the tsunamis and earthquakes, landslides, fires, floods, pandemics, and so on, reminding ourselves that in this infinitely long journey of samsara, they will all have been mothers and fathers to us, friends to us, acquaintances to us, will have helped us, supported and assisted us in every way possible and available to them. Out of an immense sense of compassion and loving kindness towards all of them and a sense of gratitude, let us transfer all the merits we have acquired to all of them. May by the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May these merits help them to abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may by the power and blessings of all the merits we have acquired throughout the day, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of arahants on this blessed land. And may you and I and everyone who's helped make this program a success become a Rahatan Vahanse or an Arahat Therunin Vahanse in this very life itself and in this era of the Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. The members of the Mahasangha will transfer their blessings to you. Rága kinnen midatva móha kinnen midatva. Forgive me. Rága kinnen midatva dwésha kinnen móha kinnen midatva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetva Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satmayo Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravetva Rága gini niveva dwésha gini niveva móha gini niveva nivan sapa labeva nivan sapa labeva nivan sapa labeva. Tumrangi suvisi ananta mahaguna belen silu lok silu satyoma Nibbāna parama sukhen sukhita taravetva. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.